Broadcasting to the world, this is On Call with Chad McCall. In our show, we bring you inspiration, strategies, and insights on how to start, grow, and scale your business.
It's drastically changed my life.
The show is so informative. I just love it. It's honest. It's helped me grow as a person.
Real talk about life, lifestyle, society, and living limitless. Learning from the top influencers across the world, along with industry experts, authorities for you to live your greatest life. It's time to level up.
I'm ready.
I'm ready. I'm ready.
Here's your host, best-selling author and mentor, Chad McCall.
Welcome to another episode of On Call with Chad McCall, where I have real conversations with great people doing amazing things in life and business. Today's call is to an awesome guy who's living in the fast lane. And I do mean the fast lane. He's currently racing full-time in NASCAR, driving the number 20 Chevrolet, and lives in North Carolina. And it's pretty close to where I grew up. So if anybody knows Western North Carolina, you know that's called NASCAR country out there. Today's call isn't going to be just about his sport. It's more. It's about competing. It's going to be about growing a brand. It's going to be about being an entrepreneur and having a passion for what you do. So let's get going. Hello, Siri.
Hello, Chad.
Will you give Spencer Boyd a call?
Of course, I would love to call Spencer Boyd.
Hello?
Spencer.
Hey, buddy. How's it going?
It's great, man. You're on call with Chad McCall. I've got you on the podcast.
Hey, happy to be here.
Good. What you doing this morning?
I'm actually getting ready to head out to the race shop.
To the shop. Well, before you go, I'm going to bug you a little bit. You're going to be the first person I've talked to about NASCAR. I've always been a fan. I grew up in NASCAR country. A lot of people don't know a lot about NASCAR, believe it or not. I'm living out here in Arizona, and it's becoming bigger. I'm going to be quizzing you and you to let me know a little bit more about the sport. I'm going to ask you some things that are probably going to throw you for a little bit of a loop over the next few minutes. I hope you're okay with that.
I'm cool with that.
Talk to me a little bit about Spencer Boyd. Where'd this come from, Spencer? I know you're from Missouri, living in North Carolina now. Where did the bug to drive fast? Where'd that come from?
You're right. I grew up just outside of St. Louis, Missouri, and that's big dirt racing world. And started out on dirt bikes when I was 4 years old and go-karts when I was 5, and just fell in love with speed. Team sports really weren't my thing. I played it all through, middle school, even played tennis in high school. For me, I just loved being one with, the sport I was doing. And if I failed, it was because of me. If I succeeded, I could go home and say, that's because of me, and that's kind of how it started with racing. And I fell in love with that. My dad worked on the go-kart. My mom traveled with us all over the country racing and keeping lap times. And it was a big family deal. Being an only child, it was cool to see, the family come together. I got to travel all over. And of course, we had some great success and won a lot of races. And that really fuels the fire and desire to win for sure.
Well, you mentioned something interesting. That was my background. I played tennis. It was one of those solo sports, and you played that. And then going over into racing, that would seem like it's like a lonely sport out there. When you're in the car, you're by yourself, going out there competing as an individual. I mean, I know there's a lot of people in the background and on the side with your team and everything else, but actually on the track, in the car, it's just you.
Yeah, I think that's a great point, Chad. In racing, you're by yourself. So, in the race car, especially at the beginning levels, you go run an hour-long race. That's an hour of nothing but your own, focus.
It's like being an entrepreneur, a solopreneur. You're by yourself in there. Everything you do is strictly up to you. Can you listen to your AirPod when you're driving?
So you really can't. In those early levels, you can't have distractions because you need to hear the cars around.
That was a curious question. I just wanted to know if you can listen to anything. You mentioned something, Spencer, just to educate some of the listeners here. You said it's hot inside the car. What type of temperatures are we talking here?
So inside the race car, on average, like during those, May, June, July, you're going to be about 120. When you get into, Vegas, Texas in August, it gets really hot. I've seen it up to 140. You're just sweating a lot. And I'm a bigger guy compared to a lot of other drivers. So I got some good water weight on me. And, a guy like myself, being 200 pounds, I'll lose 8 to 10 pounds in a race.
That's unheard of. I would have never have guessed that.
It's quite a bit. I sweat a lot. Most guys like, household name, Jimmy Johnson. Everyone knows him. He's a triathlete, very fit guy. He's going to lose 4 or 5 pounds, which is pretty impressive considering his size.
How in shape is the average driver? Because, I mean, you're talking about dehydrating. You're talking about, I mean, like Jimmy Johnson being a triathlete says, is it pretty rigorous in training to be that? I mean, what type of programs do people do that are drivers?
Yeah, I think fitness has definitely become a lot more popular over the last 10 years in NASCAR. People have realized, drivers. Jimmy Johnson's really, him and Carl Edwards set the bar. Jimmy is really good at cardio, cycles, a couple 100 miles a week. Where Carl Edwards is more of the buff guy who's bench pressing a lot and lifting weights, not really doing the biking thing as much. So you kind of pick your path. Myself, I love to lift weights. I have fun with that. I do a lot of mountain biking. I stay off the road bike, a little too dangerous, but I work out 3 to 4 days a week. And then usually, Monday through Wednesday, Monday through Thursday. And usually we fly out Thursday or Friday morning to go race. So then you're really spending Saturday and Sunday recovering, trying to get hydrated. You don't really want to work out too much. Just some, might go spin on the bike for 30, 45 minutes, but you want to be doing something every day for sure.
Let's talk a little bit behind the scenes. Right now, you run all your own marketing. And I think this is what's really going to be important for some of the listeners. I talk to a lot of entrepreneurs, a lot of solopreneurs, a lot of people building a brand. Talk about why you chose to run your own marketing.
Yeah, so it was kind of out of necessity. The way it works in NASCAR, it's so much different than other sports. It takes a lot of dollars to operate. So I was an 18-year-old kid racing, a few times a month, chasing the dream. Wasn't racing as much as a lot of other kids, but every time I got on the track, we were, top 3 competing for wins and people were noticing. But those better opportunities and being on TV and breaking into, one of the top 3 NASCAR levels was going to take some sponsorship. And at that point, I'm right at that age of, I need to figure out college and what I'm going to do. And a lot of drivers my age that are in NASCAR have never been to college a day in their life. So I took a different path, went to school for marketing, fell in love with it. At the same time, I was selling cars at Hendrick Automotive Group with my dad. Met a lot of lifelong friends through that. But between learning marketing and selling cars, I just really learned how to talk to people and how, you can talk to someone that makes $50,000 a year to someone that comes in and buys a vehicle that owns $1 million business. And working in the car business really helped me learn how to talk to people and hit their hot buttons and find out a lot about someone in, 10 or 15 minutes, right? I mean, that's important. So when I'm out there researching companies to partner with, or, hey, I got this guy's number, let me cold call him and see if we can put a deal together, explain NASCAR. In that situation, I have to tell them about NASCAR. Maybe they're not a fan, so I'm trying to convince them to be a fan of the sport myself. And you don't have a lot of time to do that. And oh, by the way, do you guys mind investing your hard-earned dollars in this sport? So through that, you don't have a lot of time. And I feel like that's similar to creating rapport within the car business.
I talk to so many entrepreneurs, and I don't think that the listeners realize that your sport is exactly like every other business out there. It involves talking to people. It involves selling yourself. It involves knowing your product. It involves educating the consumer or the partner or the relationship that you're trying to build. Everything gets back to the common business principles that you have to have. And you've learned some of these things, like you related selling cars and marketing into, hey, that's what I'm doing. I'm talking to people. I'm introducing myself. It leads right into building the brand. You know what I mean? Because your brand's being built by what you're doing. But for you to be able to do that, you have to go back to the beginning and build the sponsorships, generate the money to be able to afford to compete in the sport. Because a lot of people in the sport, any sport or any team, it's almost like the more money you have, the better you are set up for success. And that comes in selling and building those relationships and getting more sponsors, right?
Yeah, absolutely. You look at the stick and ball sports. Any of those teams that have the bigger budgets, they're able to buy better players. That's basically how it works, right? Where for us, when you get to this level, it's not just about me. It turns into you having mechanics and leaders within the organization. Well, those people cost money, just like business. So anytime that you can increase your total working capital, you're probably going to have a more successful business.
And something that separates Spencer Boyd from a lot of the other drivers out there, it really stood out to me. You go after businesses or companies and sponsors that aren't your traditional type of NASCAR names, right? Like those sponsors that you go after, it's a little bit different. So talk about why you chose this other path. Is it your marketing background? Is it your fun for other products? Like where did that come from? What gave you that idea?
For me, I think it's just, reaching out. It started out reaching out to companies that would actually pick up the phone. And, when you reach out to a Fortune 500 company, it's hard to reach the decision maker. So going after those medium sized companies, getting to talk to the owner that has, started that company and it's grown it for 25, 30 years, they're excited to talk about their journey. They're excited to talk about how they were successful. And then they see me chasing a dream. It's a good match. People want to help people. I feel like that's pretty common within business, especially if you're not in the same business. People are really open arms to help each other succeed. And it's a lot easier to introduce someone to the sport than it is to kind of steal a sponsor from someone else. That doesn't feel right. I've had it happen to me. Going out there and getting sponsors that aren't as well known, I feel like I can do more for them and then be a part of that success. And for me, like you said, my brand is all about patriotism and pride and loving America, and going after those veteran owned companies and American made products are really in my wheelhouse.
Is it a common practice where a sponsor only sponsors one driver?
It is. It's super competitive. You have NASCAR, you have the tracks, you have the race teams, and then you have the drivers. So you have four people out there constantly looking for partners. There's the official fuel of NASCAR, the official tire of NASCAR, the official, so NASCAR is trying to get their sponsors. And myself, I'm my own entity, my own business. So I'm out there trying to get mine. And it's a lot easier, I would say, to steal sponsors from other people because they like NASCAR, they get the benefit, and you're probably just going to undercut someone else. It's not how you build a good reputation, especially when you're young and people know that you do your own marketing. You really can't blame it on, oh, my agent, he went and did that. I'm sorry. Like, I guess I'm a better rep. I don't know what to say. For me, people know that, well, if it's on the side of his race car, he probably, got on the phone and made that happen himself. So for me, it's a lot easier to look at growing companies, think outside the box. And there's a lot more enjoyment out of that for myself.
You own a business and you are the salesman. You are not scared of rejection. You're calling companies. Does that ever bug you to think about, hey, I'm going to call someone, I'm going to get rejected? Because in business, it's got to happen. Are you okay with that? Are you more comfortable with that than the average person? Because some people aren't comfortable with getting a no.
Yeah, I think I'm definitely more comfortable than most. Yeah, I learned that pretty early. I was reaching out to companies when I was 15, 16, trying to race on a regional level, and I got no all the time. And, I'm sitting in class emailing companies and stuff. We're all on our laptops and stuff, and I probably wasn't as focused as I should have been, but I was chasing the racing deal. And you get no a lot, but when you get that yes, you're like, wow, okay, like it's just kind of paying the price. If I get 100 no's and one yes, that's just the ratio. And I think that's what you have to become okay with, that if I don't do this and I don't get these no's, it's not going to lead to a yes. And you got to look at every obstacle as an opportunity for practice and an opportunity to learn from. And that's something that I've thrived off of. And then sometimes you have 3 calls in one day and they're all yeses. And you're like, wow, what prepared me for this? But we'll send the invoice.
It's time that you put into your business. It eventually leads to your hard work paying off. And it just like in any business, a lot of people that are, going through times like right now, it leads us to, let's say, like the quarantine that we're in, right? It's a lot of people, they can't meet face to face. So a lot of their business is having to shift online, or it's having to shift to the phone. Someone like Spencer Boyd that's not going to cause any hiccup for you because you're already comfortable doing that. But a lot of other drivers and people that are searching for sponsorships, they might have run into some roadblocks these last couple months.
Yeah, it's definitely trying times for sure. And, when you have partners that expect you to be on TV, expect you to be posting really cool content on a daily basis. And, you're stuck at home, or maybe not necessarily just stuck at home, but you're stuck in your town, and there's only so much you can do. We're not on TV every week. So you're trying to provide value for these folks, even in a difficult time. And I think that's when it really turns into business, and you learn that, man, these relationships are key. And just like business, you want to keep these POs coming, and it may be difficult for them to make these POs in these times, but if they like you better than the next guy, chances are they're going to bend backwards and try and help you out, because like I said, in business, you care for each other. When things turn right, we're all back to a more profitable situation.
What are you hearing about NASCAR? When's it back? What's going on?
Yeah, I think it's tough to put a date on it, but I think from the calls that I've had and the things that are going on, you're really looking at, everyone hopes to be back, sometime in May. It's probably going to be the last week of May. And where is that? We don't know. With NASCAR, it's a lot different than other sports. We're traveling all over different states every weekend. So when everyone's kind of on their own path, it's tough to say where we're going to end up. But I feel like at the end of May, we'll be racing somewhere here in the Southeast. And then once that's a success, everything will fire back up, I feel.
And some of the sports are talking about playing the sports with no fans, basically an empty stadium. Now, I've been to NASCAR races. It's an experience in itself, unlike any other sport, being there. You know what I mean? So what do you think about, is that a possibility? Have you heard that they're talking about maybe fanless races?
Yeah. For us, we were in Atlanta when all this kind of all started, and they said, we're going to race without fans. And we're all like, do what? I mean, Caterpillar and all these companies have their fan zone out front for people to walk by and sit on and get pictures with and stuff, and get koozies and all that. And what do you mean, 150,000 people aren't going to come through that area this weekend? And they ended up canceling that race like 30 minutes before we were walking in. So we all drove back to Charlotte, North Carolina. But they're saying that we're going to go racing without fans first. I think you got to do what's right, for health and everyone's well-being. But it is going to be strange, when you climb in a race car and you look up and you see, 30, 50, 100,000 people, depends where you're at. Sitting in the grandstands, it's exciting. And you feel like, okay, there's a purpose to this outside of just, I'm doing this for myself, or I want to get this trophy for my team. You got people up there wearing your t-shirt and they're excited for it. It's going to be weird for sports to go back without fans. And I think we've seen that with WWE and kind of how important fans are. And, when you hear people win a race or win the Super Bowl, they're like, oh, it's all about the fans. And it's so true. The fans really bring the excitement to the athlete, I think.
Let's talk about bringing the excitement. Your last race, you finished the last lap. You were sitting at about 10th at Talladega, right? And you end up winning one of your first big races. And talk about fans and talk about that experience, and then now going to a fanless race. I just thought it was a perfect time to bring that up. Talk about going from 10th and winning a big race and all the time you've put into it. What I'm going for is, how did it feel when this hard work, starts to really pay off and win at Talladega like that?
It's pretty wild. Talladega and Daytona are, if you don't know NASCAR, they're huge racetracks. They're 2.5 miles long, a lot of drafting. So you're out there running side by side, inches away from people. You can go from 1st to 10th or 10th to 1st in one lap, like what happened to us. So we crossed the finish line, taking the white flag, which is 1 to go. We were in 10th and we were running on the bottom and we were pushing hard, and just people started moving up and we were filling holes that were barely there. And next thing you know, we crossed our finish line and we win the race. And that last lap felt like it took a year. It was insane. You get out and you hear everyone screaming. Talladega, like I said, is a huge place. It's a packed house, pretty wild. It was a brand new victory lane, so I was the first one to go check that out. And a lot of my partners were there. Great family friends were there, and my mom and dad were there. So when you talk about just a perfect moment, stars aligning, everything great, it felt like I was in victory lane for 10 hours. It was insane. It was just never ending, just everyone screaming and getting pictures. So I was always wondering what that would feel like. If you win a race and everyone goes and takes those photos, is it 15 minutes and over and that's it? Like, what was all this for? And it wasn't. It was everything and more. to what I had hoped for. And we're still riding that wave today.
What's really cool is you got to experience that, with the fans there. You know what I mean? At the time versus, I think winning right now, if we were to race this weekend, I think it'd be a totally different experience versus how you won on that last race there with everyone there, family there. You mentioned that, like, it was the perfect thing that happened because everyone was there. And I think the winning, that's going to be different going forward for the next little while because, family may not be there for some of the races, right? Your next several races, you may only have just you and your team, right?
Yeah, that could happen. And I've heard, talks of that about, limiting who's allowed in the pits and, if you're not essential to, the sport happening. So mechanics, drivers, team owners, what's that do for sponsors? What's that do for your parents and, friends that go out to the racetrack and hang out with you? So it's going to be strange for sure. I'm happy that we picked up the win at Talladega in a normal fashion.
You've educated me a lot. There's things that I didn't know. And if you could give any advice to, let's say, beginning entrepreneurs that are on here, what would you tell them? Some motivation and some tips you could give some people that are starting out in business.
Yeah, I mean, I think, a saying that my dad always says is HWP, and hard work pays. And I feel that's so true. You got to put in the time. Don't be afraid to work, Monday through Sunday. And don't be scared of rejection like we talked about. You're going to get told no a ton, but it's going to make those yeses worth it and feel that much better.
That's good. Well, Spencer, man, I know you're busy. Even though it's an off season, it's probably still not an off season. For what I hear, you've got almost a car right and just sitting in the middle of your living room there that you're practicing in. Is that true?
That's true. We're doing a lot of iRacing. A lot of my buddies are coming over, and we're laying down laps. And even some of this stuff is streamed online. And we had a race the other day live on Fox, and it's a virtual race, so fake race car on a fake racetrack, and it's on Fox Sports. So it tells you times are definitely crazy right now.
Spencer, for the listeners, how can they follow you and learn more about the number 20 Chevrolet Spencer Boyd Racing out there? What can they do to stay connected with you?
Yeah, I'm all over social. Follow me on Twitter at Spencer Boyd, Instagram Spencer Boyd PR, and Facebook Spencer Boyd Racing fan page. I run all that. I'll respond to you, so hit me up on there, and hopefully we can go win some races together.
And before I let you go, you've got to answer my top 3 questions, Spencer. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Days of Thunder or Talladega Nights?
Oh, Days of Thunder all day long. Tom Cruise.
This one, I'm going to catch you on one here, I think. I usually stump somebody every time. So, men country singers or women country singers? Who's better?
I mean, you got to go with women. Shania Twain. I mean, she goes on forever.
Good answer. That's for your fans. All right, good answer. I want to hear your best post-race interview.
Oh, boy. All right. Well, I tell you what, I got to thank Young's Motorsports, all the guys back at the shop working hard. Our Chevy's running really well. Thanks to 1A Auto Parts, Champion Spark Plugs. I got to thank NASCAR, Goodyear for giving me the best rubber on the racetrack, Sunoco for keeping it burning right, Record Rack Deer Feed for keeping me chasing big racks all day long, Aurora Heated Apparel for those chilly days, Pure Life for keeping my dad healthy with type 2 diabetes so he can go hunt and go fish and all that fun stuff. For me, I'm a car guy. Gotta love MGP caliper covers. They fit on every vehicle out there. You got to have that extended warranty from Freedom Warrant. And for myself, my favorite race day snack is kick-ass beef jerky.
All right, man. Spencer, that was great. Oh, I love it. I hope all the listeners love it because that is one of the best things I love to listen for is that post-race interview. That was great. So Spencer, I appreciate you being here, taking the time out this morning and sharing the story of your success. And for myself, all the listeners, we wish you the best of luck.
Thanks for having me, guys, and chase those dreams, and good luck with your business.
Be fast and be safe out there, Spencer. And don't forget, you are always on call.
Thank you for listening, and we hope you enjoyed today's episode. Don't forget to subscribe, and remember, friends, you are always on call.